Peak Wealth Management proudly presents Finding True Wealth with certified financial planner Nick Hopwood and accredited investment fiduciary Jim Pilot. Nick and Jim believe by making simple, good financial decisions, you can retire with confidence. And now, let's turn it over to your hosts, Nick and Jim.
Welcome everyone to episode 94 of the Retire with Confidence podcast. My name is Nick Hopwood.
And I'm Jim Pilot.
And today we're talking about transitions, whether it's job loss, death of a family member, or divorce. So kind of different types of grief.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, different types of life events, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's how we got started on this topic. Is the list can be really long as far as transitions in life, right? I don't want to say simple things like a job loss, right? But because that's a big thing, but like to death, divorce, new baby, right? There's so many different things you could talk about as far as being a transition and figuring out what your next steps are.
I guess you could say retirement is a big transition too.
Yeah, absolutely. Retirement is a huge transition.
So let's start with the easy one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the easier of the others, right? Job change.
Yeah.
So what do we have to be aware of when we are accepting a job, whether it was intentional or not?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not every job change is on purpose.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's just really important to think about what types of things you need to be thinking about, right? One common one is the old retirement accounts, right? And we see a lot of people who have old retirement accounts just left at old employers. You don't work there anymore. You're stuck at the mercy of whatever they decide with your money.
Meaning they can change the investment lineup.
Change the provider, change the investment lineup. They can do all those things at any time. And that's a big thing, is just looking to do a rollover, right? Take that money back, put it under an account that you were in control of, an IRA, Roth IRA.
Yeah, you get to take control over it. You can have the choice of investments. You can be much more aware of the fees that you're paying.
You don't lose track of it either. How many times do people lose track of the old 401s? Because most statements now don't come as statements, right? They're emailed out.
That's important when it's looking at the administration, just understanding what you've got, and also the investment strategy, right?
Yeah.
If you lose track of that, just last week, right? We were in a meeting and our client could not gain access to the old accounts because they're everywhere. They're all over the place. They can't find them. They can't log in. Password changes.
Right.
It's just a nightmare.
Yep.
So we like to consolidate everything and have one login and one person to call. Do you want to call 1-800-COMPANY and wait on hold, or just call Jim, right?
Right.
Or talk to Chuck, right?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. We've talked about consolidating and being efficient before, and this is another time where that definitely applies.
Yeah. So more, I don't want to say more serious, more serious topics, which are also transitions. What about a death or a divorce now? What are the important things to consider then?
Yeah, and I think this topic stood out to me, right, because of what we went through after my dad passed away. I knew how to invest and I knew how to pick stocks, but I didn't know how to do a financial plan. And my mom was young. This is 20 years ago now that my dad's passed away. This will be 20 years in just a couple weeks. But you're in shock. You don't know what to do, let alone how to handle these investment accounts, how to track down the tax returns and all the different things that come with it. I think that it can be very overwhelming, so our thought of kind of putting together a checklist of sorts, right, and just giving people things to think about can be really valuable in a time like this.
So emotionally, right, you're off center, probably feels like you're driving in a blizzard, right? You can't see in front. And now we have to deal with all this financial stuff.
Right, and now you got to try to pick up the pieces, So
what's the first thing we do?
I think, and the first thing is try to take an inventory. I think try to figure out what do I have, what is out there. Whether it's through looking through old tax returns, looking through bank statements, looking through the checking account to see which bills are being paid. There's things you just don't want to miss. So start taking an inventory. And kind of along the same lines of that is expense tracking, I think, is a really important thing to do, because now there's a new normal and you need to make sure you really understand what your monthly needs are and how that's affected by maybe the loss of an income or whatever.
But going back to inventory, I think it's important to understand what life insurance policies are out there in the event of death. I had an experience about 10 years ago when a gentleman came in and showed me his life insurance policy, and he's a widower. Okay, it turns out the main life insurance policy was on him, but there was a rider on his wife who passed away, and there's a couple $100,000 of death benefit that we helped him take advantage of, and he didn't know about it.
Yeah,
at that,
that's amazing.
And it was like a year later.
Yeah,
right. So inventory. Don't forget about riders on life insurance.
Yeah, inventory is huge, and then that'll kind of lead you into the next step, in my opinion, is just getting a plan in place, right? And making sure you know what the future looks like. Make sure you know what you have. After you've taken that inventory, and then plug it into the plan and see, do I have enough? Do I need more? Do I,
I mean,
am I going to be okay?
In both cases, divorce and death, right? You're going to have a Social Security change, meaning an adjustment in benefits of some sort, right? Maybe some with a pension as well, right? And if in divorce case, maybe 2 incomes. Now you're going to 1.
Yeah.
Maybe a housing change.
Can you afford?
Okay.
Can you afford the lifestyle? Can you still afford the house?
Yeah.
And that's what we talk about divorce and death kind of at the same time. While they're different, there's a lot of similarities from our point of view.
Yep. Oftentimes we see a downsize in the house. But just because you're downsizing doesn't mean that you're reducing your costs. Right? Square footage doesn't always equal monthly outflow. That's an important thing to understand.
Yep, very true. But I think one of the reasons why I think getting a plan is so important is so many times, especially in the case of a death of a spouse or something, is people will tell you, well, don't make any changes for a year, right? Which is great, and if you can do that, that's wonderful. But a lot of times, maybe that's not realistic, right? And you can't continue living in that same house, on the new income since one has been lost, or whatever it is, right? But that's where getting a plan, I think, is so important in making sure that you can afford the situation that you're in.
So we say get a plan. What does that mean? We're talking about our retirement analysis, right?
Yeah, and a retirement analysis doesn't always mean, it's not only for just retirement, right? It can be from today through retirement. But yeah, it's just gathering all that information, making sure you know what your cost of living is, making sure you know what assets you have and how accessible they are, right? Just because maybe you have a great big amount of money available to you, but you're now a young widow or widower who's under the age of 59 and a half, and you can't access that retirement money. So making sure that you understand that retirement money is different than trust money or individual account or joint account money, and understanding all the implications of that.
Absolutely. And one thing with divorce, right, is you have a quadro, okay? So hopefully you have a lawyer who's working with you to make sure that you're, fighting for assets that are most beneficial for you. And oftentimes we'll work with the lawyer to help understand what the priorities should be, right? Should we go for the house or should we go for the 401?
Yeah.
Right? And if we get the 401 and we're age 50, well, what if we need access to some of that money? Well, there is a one-time withdrawal exemption allowed to the spouse without that penalty, right? So you can kind of get a one-time withdrawal for free.
Penalty free, yeah.
Yeah, but if the lawyer is not working with us, these things can be lost.
Yeah, if they kind of rush through and try, that's another reason that planning comes into place.
And also on the beneficiary of an IRA, right?
Yeah.
If the IRA is set up a certain way, okay, you could be committed to 59 and a half, but if it was set up another way, you could allow beneficiary withdrawals with no penalty.
Very true.
Between now and 59. So
yeah,
there's positives and negatives, and it depends on the scenario.
Yeah, and on the topic of beneficiary, reviewing your estate plan is another really important consideration, whether it's a result of a death or a divorce. I mean, it's sad, but a lot of time, it's amazing how many times we see an ex-spouse still listed as the beneficiary, or a deceased spouse is a beneficiary of an account. And I think it's really important to make sure you reconsider and review your estate planning situation.
How about investment risk, right? Let's say, let's say I was in charge of all the investments and I have an aggressive risk tolerance and I pass away. Now my wife, who maybe doesn't have the same level of comfort with investment risk. Maybe now she's invested aggressively and doesn't understand that, doesn't appreciate that, and now the market goes down 35% in March, and she panics, right? And she panics and shoots herself in the foot.
Right.
Right.
She's already fearful enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Imagine, 2020, right?
Yeah.
So risk is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Reevaluating that risk. When we talk about plan, we talk about a retirement plan, but it's also an investment plan, and that's where that would fit in, is making sure these investments match you, your risk tolerance, and your new situation.
Absolutely. So any closing thoughts here on transitions, job loss, divorce, loss of a spouse?
I just think there's so many different things to consider. I think it's part of the reason why we built the website, to help give people.
And that website is?
peakwm.com/transitions. Our goal with that website is to give you a resource to start thinking through whether you're going through a loss of a spouse, a job change, a divorce. There's an infinite number of transitions, right? But our goal with that is to build in some next steps for you, to help you think about, what should I be doing? What should I be thinking about? What am I missing, right? What are the things I need to be doing that I haven't thought of yet? And I think that's a good